In a low-level dungeon, a group of hunters is being attacked by the golems in the gargoyle zone. The hunters try to tackle the golems' attacks head-on while also making sure they deal enough damage in return. However, because of golem's high attack power, the tanker is not able to completely block its hit head-on, which gives the golem a chance to smack his head. The leader of the raid team notices this and instructs his team members to deflect the golem's attack from the side instead of blocking it head-on. After making sure they have completely blocked all of golem's attacks, the leader orders everyone to start attacking the golem, upon which all the hunters jump at the golem. Some of them go for the golem's arm to remove its one and only attack, while others go for its leg in order to cause the golem to topple over. However, to their surprise, this causes the golem to enter a berserk state. The leader shouts at everyone, instructing them to put on their resistance amulets, since it is finally time for the mage to come into action. The mage continues to charge his attack, but while he was doing that, the mage notices that he does not have enough mana, so he asks our boy, who goes by the name Mana Shuttle, to do his job instead of dozing off, upon which our boy Sano Haruto, a level 29 hunter, provides the mage with a large amount of mana. The mage is so thrilled with the surplus amount of mana that he believes he would be able to take down the king golem. The mage, after completely charging its attack, sends it towards the golem, which shatters every rock in the golem's body to dust. After they defeat the golem, the team leader asks our boy, who is casually resting, to help out with the dismantling since his contribution in the fight was very low today. Instead of objecting, our boy quietly agrees to do so, while two hunters mock Haruto for giving support from the back even though he is supposed to be an attack dealer. One of them responds that it is because Haruto has infinite mana generation, which might sound like the most powerful skill to ever exist, but in reality has very little use, because even mages and healers have mana absorption skills, which means that unless it is a boss fight that needs a ton of mana, Haruto's skill is pretty much useless. Even though they are Haruto's teammates, they start mocking him for being level 29 even after working for 5 whole years as a hunter, which is quite abnormal. However, Haruto, despite knowing that his teammates are talking loud enough for Haruto to hear on purpose, does not say anything to them and lets them mock him all they want, because no matter how low the level, a hunter's stats are higher than a regular person's, so there is no way our boy is going to lose that privilege. That is true until Haruto's boss, who is also the director of the Great Sage Guild, tells our boy to start working in the production department. Haruto strongly objects to this proposal, because a hunter should hunt in a dungeon instead of working in the manufacturing department. The director informs Haruto that the reason he is suggesting that to Haruto is because not a single hunter wants to hunt with Haruto anymore. Moreover, because our boy is at level 29, solo hunting is also out of the question for him. And since our boy does not have any useful skills other than the infinite mana, the director believes it would be better for Haruto to work in the production department. Haruto objects to this, telling the director that he is supplying more than enough mana for hunting, and after he achieves level 30, Haruto believes that no one will have any problem hunting with him. The director mentions the same thing Haruto's teammates mentioned after the hunt, and informs Haruto that even healers and mages have mana absorption skills, which are not of much help to most parties. The director further adds that nothing will actually change for our boy at level 30. The director assures Haruto that he is thinking best for him, and tells our boy that this decision was made by the guild with Haruto's well-being in mind. The director mentions that after thinking long and hard for Haruto, the company has decided that instead of supplying mana in the dungeons, Haruto's ability is better suited for the mana potion division in the manufacturing department. Our boy asks if he would be kicked out were he to refuse to work in the production division, to which the director nods, telling our boy that they cannot keep someone who has hit a growth wall in the guild. The scene then shifts to Haruto, who is sitting in the park with a soda can and a rice ball, lamenting getting instant unemployment. Haruto remembers the talk he had with his director regarding his skill, which everyone believes gives Haruto the ability to generate mana and transfer it to his allies. But the truth is that Haruto's skill is a bit more special than that. What is surprising is that Haruto got this skill before he even walked the path of a hunter. Haruto's secret skill is Control plus C, Control plus V, which lets him easily copy and paste any target, just like the rice ball our boy was holding in his hand. No one had ever heard of that skill. So after awakening as a hunter, our boy had huge expectations. However, it did not take Haruto long to realize that he got a dud skill because it only works on Haruto, and the moment it leaves Haruto's hands, it disappears like a mirage, which means that money copying, gear copying for resale, and any other shenanigans are all useless. There is something more annoying with regard to this ability, and that is the level restriction for copying equipment. Thanks to that, our boy cannot even equip Chungmu's dagger unless he is at level 90, because his retinue is insufficient to equip it. Moreover, the so-called infinite mana generation our boy is known for is just him copying and pasting the measly mana he absorbs. Once pasted, the mana does not disappear and gets transferred to another hunter. Because of that, our boy has also tried copying skills, but it requires very rare monster materials, and to do that, Haruto would need to level up a bit more to be able to copy some high-tier gear, after which Haruto could walk pompously and fully geared in hunts. What our boy wishes to do the most is to acquire and copy Collegia Dragon's longsword, because this sword has 2 unique skill slots along with a defense buff effect. Moreover, this sword also has its own leveling system, which makes it more unique than the rest of the swords. The person wielding the Collegia Dragon's long sword will instantly receive a level 200 boost. However, the main reason our boy wants this sword is that it can be equipped as long as one is level 30. Despite being a legendary sword, it has surprisingly low level sensitivity, making it an ideal weapon for our boy, who is not yet at level 30. But if Haruto copies this sword, he can quickly reach level 230, making this sword critical equipment for Haruto's survival in the current economy. This sword will be displayed in Japan in a week, the reason being its durability, which is down to 10, which in English means it will only survive 1 or 2 more hunts. Because it is no longer functional as a weapon, it is being displayed to get some profit. But for our boy, it is a golden opportunity, for he just needs a single touch, since Haruto does not have to worry about durability thanks to his copy-pasting skill. All our boy has to do is to reach level 30 in a week, and after that, Haruto would be able to easily copy that sword. To make sure he reaches level 30 in a week, Haruto joins an unregistered dungeon, where, in the giant spider rest area, he is yet again acting as a mana source. Haruto supplies large amounts of mana to the mage, who roasts all the spiders in front of him to a crisp. After observing the fierce attack power that evaporates the spiders, our boy concludes that level is everything in hunting. After the fight, Haruto checks to see if he has reached level 30, and while doing so, he is approached by his guild junior, Ikanaga Aoi, who asks Haruto if leveling up like this will really work for him. Haruto panics, telling Aoi that he is preparing something before the boss fight, to which Aoi responds that Haruto does not need to do anything else except pay for the bus ride later, and that while he is at it, Haruto should also buy everyone a drink after this hunt. Our boy assures Aoi that it would not be a problem, because our boy does not care about anything else as long as he gets to level up. Our boy remembers how Ikanaga Aoi joined these unofficial hunts to make money early on, and thanks to this connection, he was able to hitch a ride on a high-level dungeon bus even for an unregistered, dangerous hunt. Aoi, who is looking forward to the drinks after this hunt, asks everyone to move to the boss room after finishing the dismantling because they have a treat waiting for them after that. After reaching the giant spider's room, Aoi quietly tells everyone to stop and not make any loud noise, for they are in the rest area of Alexa, a level 80 spider and the boss of the giant spider's lair. Haruto gets awfully intimidated by Alexa and believes that even getting touched by that thing might end his life. Aoi notices that Haruto is freaked out after seeing Alexa and tells him to relax, as Haruto is not the one who is going to fight the spider. Aoi tells our boy that hunting a giant spider is usually easy. However, one should be careful of a few things. The first one is Alexa's webs, which is able to immobilize even a level 200 monster. Next, Aoi tells our boy to keep an eye on the eggs of the giant spider, for if they break, the giant spider immediately goes berserk, and when that happens, the giant spider is scarier than any monster. The mage in the party shouts at Aoi for giving a full tutorial on Mana Shuttle, telling Aoi that they are not here for some tour. Rather, They are here to hunt the giant spider. The mage reminds Aoi that they do not have enough time, and splitting the bus fee barely leaves anything for them. So instead of behaving as if they are at a picnic, they should kill the giant spider and be done with it. The mage takes out his frustration on a rock, which flies towards one of the strands of Alexa's web, which causes her to wake up. The tanker of the party curses the stupid mage for waking Alexa up, because they were not supposed to do that. Alexa immediately attacks the hunter with its sharp legs. However, Tanker blocks the attack, telling everyone to get away from this place, for they are going to die. While he is tanking the attacks, the tanker tells everyone to watch out for the web and eggs as they deal with the giant spider. The attackers quickly charge at Alexa, attacking it from every side, while also making sure it does not get any chance to counterattack. Our boy, who is hiding behind the pillar, is amazed to see the high-level hunters attack the giant spider as they are smashing mosquitoes, wishing for everything to go well, because if that happens, Haruto might even hit level 35 just from the giant spider alone. However, Alexa, on the other hand, is annoyed at these pesky hunters, so it turns around to shoot its web. The tanker notices it immediately and orders everyone to get behind the pillars, but the mage refuses to do so and decides to burn these webs with his fire magic just like he did earlier. The mage shoots a huge fireball towards the spider in the hope it gets burnt, but its fireball gets blocked. Instead of learning from the humiliation and falling back, the mage just hurls more fire bombs at the web. Our boy tries to stop it because he notices that something is wrong. However, it is too late, for the impact from the fireballs is more than enough to break Alexa's eggs. Alexa goes berserk after seeing its eggs spit out some fine yolk and starts shooting its spiderwebs at everyone, and this time, the spiderweb first hits the tanker, who, up until now, managed to save everyone against Alexa's ferocious attacks. The spiderweb immobilizes the tanker immediately. Aoi, who was with Haruto this whole time, tells him to get behind the pillars immediately because when Alexa goes berserk, it covers everything in webs. Alexa keeps shooting more and more webs now that the tanker is not here, which immobilizes most of the hunters, including the stupid mage, who wanted to show off with his fireballs. After immobilizing the mage, Alexa immediately pierces him with one of its legs because the mage was also annoying Alexa the most. Alexa then marches towards our boy, who is also immobilized thanks to these strong webs, laughing at his own fate. For after trying to play it safe with low-level dungeons, Haruto is about to die for a single level up. Alexa strikes at our boy in his leg, just like it did with other people. However, unlike other people, our boy is able to live off it, thanks to his copy and paste skill. Although other things might disappear when Haruto copy and pastes them, Haruto is built different, for he does not disappear, which is why, in a dungeon, Haruto makes a copy of himself as a precaution. This makes things for Haruto just like a game. That is, if he dies automatically, our boy gets pasted back and his corpse disappears. However, no matter how many times Haruto has seen it, he cannot get used to it. Alexa, on the other hand, notices that Haruto is somehow alive, so it pierces our boy again with its leg. This begins the infinite process of Haruto's copy getting killed by Alexa over and over, but despite copying countless times, Haruto is not able to get out of this situation. While he is wondering about it, Haruto hears Aoi's voice, who wants to get out of this spiderweb, but because Aoi made some noise, it shifted Alexa's attention towards him, putting Aoi's life in danger. Haruto had originally no intention to save Aoi, but after realizing that he should not become a senior who swindles bus fare from a junior, our boy rushed towards Aoi and somehow managed to deflect Alexa's attack, saving Aoi in the process. Surprisingly, Haruto was able to advance to level 30 just by deflecting this attack, which makes him wonder if his attack actually damaged Alexa. But as our boy is wondering about that, Alexa uses this chance to stab Haruto with its leg. Our boy gets joyous over his level up because now all he needs to do is to paste the Collegia Dragon's longsword. Our boy uses his skill to create yet another clone and decides to face off against this spider alone, even if it takes him 100 deaths to defeat it, because now it is a race against time. After over 50 deaths spanning 3 days and 3 nights, and with all the weapons of his party members having broken at his own hands, Haruto has achieved tremendous growth, while, on the other hand, thanks to Alexa not having any regenerating abilities, it is becoming more and more battered with each death. But despite fighting for 3 days straight, Alexa still has enough energy to shoot out more spider silk, the very thing that has sent our boy to the other world 4 times. After dodging all of its spider webs, Haruto runs on top of Alexa by climbing its leg and bonks at its head, which, instead of harming Alexa, causes Haruto's borrowed weapon to break. Haruto falls on the ground, giving Alexa a chance to strike at him. But because of all the wounds it received for 3 days, Alexa collapses on its own. Our boy is joyous at this victory because, despite being a low-level player, he was able to somehow demolish Alexa. Our boy advances more than 10 levels at once, and along with that, he also receives the reward for subjugating the giant spider. Haruto then grabs Aoi, who is still unconscious, and tells him to get a grip. As he continues to walk out of the dungeon while carrying Aoi, Haruto is met with a cruel fate that sends him flying to the ground. Our boy recovers from the hit he received, only to find out that he has been surrounded by Alexa's offspring that just hatched from the egg. This puts Haruto in a bind, because he does not even have a sword now, which would not have been a problem in and of itself since Haruto can just create a clone and run away. However, the real problem is that Aoi is lying down unconscious behind him, and if Aoi dies, it is over for him. But there is no way the spiders are going to give Haruto any chance, so they collectively jump at Aoi. Our boy tries to defend Aoi by putting his life on the line. However, it appears that there was no need to do so because, just as they were about to become food for the spiders, someone came to save them. Surprised at this sudden invasion that killed few of their brethren, the rest of the spiders jump at the hunter who disturbed their mealtime, but that was a bad choice on their part, because the said hunter is able to use Hellfire. Hellfire is the highest level fire magic, which is so rare that only a handful of magic-based hunters in this world are able to cast this as a non-incantation spell, and if Haruto's memory serves him right, there is only one such person in Japan, who is one of the sword magicians that wields a staff sword called Witchblade and goes by the name Hunter Nanace. Hunter Nanace is ranked 5th among Japanese hunters, a sword magician of level 450 who is the team leader of the Hunter Association's audit team. Hunter Nanace, who somehow came to this dungeon, asks our boy if he and Aoi are the only 2 survivors, to which our boy nods, telling Hunter Nanace that the rest got killed by the giant spider. Hunter Nanace looks at the battlefield where the baby spider emerged from the broken eggs, and is surprised to see that a low-level hunter not only survived in a boss room, where the high-level players were wiped out by Alexa's berserk state, but also managed to save his junior. The scene then shifts to the Japanese Hunter Association, where our boy thanks Hunter Nanace along with the dungeon entrance supervisor who filed a missing report for the hunters, because if Hunter Nanace did not arrive there on time, Hunter Nanace responds that it is her duty as a member of the Hunters Association and informs our boy that she has submitted the items from the giant spider after writing the report so Haruto can receive the item and head back home. Our boy gets surprised because he cannot believe that the investigation surrounding the wipeout of the high-level dungeon party and the dungeon bus incident just finished like that. Hunter Nanace responds that dungeon death incidents occur dozens of times a day, so Hunters Association often has death reports signed in advance on the entry forms. As for dungeon buses, Hunter Nanace responds that the Hunter Association turns a blind eye to low-level hunters paying for rides to high-level dungeons for leveling up because the desire to become stronger is a basic instinct for hunters, and although it is illegal, it is still considered a means of training hunters. After explaining everything to our boy, Hunter Nanace asks Haruto if he has any more questions, to which our boy shakes his head, telling Hunter Nanace that he actually feels at ease after hearing the explanation. As our boy is heading out of the investigation room, Hunter Nanace remembers something important and informs our boy that the amount for the giant spider's item distribution Haruto submitted will be deposited to Haruto's account in a few days. Haruto tells Hunter Nanace that he does not need money, so they should give all of it to his junior Aoi. Hunter Nanace once again gets amazed at Haruto for refusing to accept such a large sum of money. However, despite getting amazed, Hunter Nanace believes that our boy is hiding something, because there is no way a low-level hunter would be able to survive in a high-level dungeon that is way above his grade. The scene then shifts to Haruto, who has successfully acquired loads of giant spider silk. A few hours ago, Haruto received giant spider silk as the reward item for the giant spider's subjugation. This item has the same effect as the giant spider's silk, which means that when it is activated by the user, it provides powerful adhesive properties for a certain period. This item can be used at level 40. However, our boy is not excited by this reward, and it is not because he does not meet the level requirement to use it, but rather because Haruto believes it to be just your normal sticky thread that will help Haruto catch some bugs while camping in the dungeon. Despite that, Haruto uses his skill copy and paste on this item, and while he was figuring out how to use the item he received, the giant spider's skill gets absorbed into Haruto's existing skill, which enhances the attributes of Control plus V part of the skill. Our boy gets shocked by this because he did not know that his skill copy and paste could be enhanced. However, despite getting enhanced, the Control plus C part is still blocked. However, as for Control plus V, Haruto was able to receive 3 new options. Haruto wonders if absorbing the giant spider's item caused his copy and paste skill, which was previously unupgradable, to upgrade. This makes our boy conclude that absorbing items that meet the conditions allow for the growth of his skills. Our boy then checks the 3 new options he received. The first one allows Haruto to paste the copied object for as long as he wants, while the second option allows Haruto to stitch whatever object he wants for a certain period of time, and as for the third option, it gives Haruto the ability to unlock the giant spider's thread. Our boy never expected that the skill that was supposed to be a dud would turn out to be this useful. Our boy tries the first option and lets go of the copy of the giant spider's silk he created while setting it to last for 1 minute. To his surprise, the copy does not disappear immediately as it leaves Haruto's hands, which is a relief in and of itself. However, just like Haruto said it, after 1 complete minute, the copy of the giant spider silk disappears. Seeing his experiment succeed, Haruto starts making a bunch of copies and maintains them from different times, which ranges from half an hour to hundreds of years. Thanks to this upgrade in his skill, Haruto will be able to walk on the path to become a wealthy and successful hunter. And to make sure his journey goes on smoothly, Haruto first needs to copy and paste the Collegia Dragon's longsword Haruto craved from the moment he saw it. The scene then shifts to Rainbow Bridge in Tokyo, where 2 hours ago, Moore Grant, a level 112 hunter and member of the International Hunters Association, along with Erez Hugh, a level 131 hunter, was leading the trailer carrying the Collegia Dragon's longsword. While he follows the instructions to maintain his vehicle's speed and distance, Moore asks Erez, who is also a member of the International Hunters Association, about how many times she has come to Japan, to which Erez responds that it is her second time coming to Japan, which is something Moore finds strange, because considering how it is Erez's mother's hometown, Erez should have visited it quite often. Erez responds that Japan being her mother's hometown has nothing to do with her, as she does not really feel anything about it. Moore then asks Erez if she has applied for the exhibition because the last place that the long sword will be exhibited is in Japan, to which Erez nods, telling Moore that there is something she wants to find in the Japanese dungeon. Moore wishes for Erez to find the thing she is searching for, but instead of respecting Moore's good wishes, Erez tells him to mind his own business, because if Moore does not, then he might get hurt. As they are talking, Moore gets informed that their vehicle is currently going to pass through the Rainbow Bridge dungeon, so they will be losing all communication for around 5 minutes due to the electromagnetic waves of the dungeon. Moore finds the thought of a dungeon above the sea to be quite romantic. However, Erez thinks differently, because it will be a complete disaster if the bridge collapses. Moore tells Erez to not be boring, to which Erez responds that Moore is just asking to get hurt at this point. The scene then shifts to the Rainbow Bridge's Dungeon Access Management Office, where Shinoda Satoru, a hunter of level 21 and a member of the Great Sage Guild, is doing the boring task of managing the entrance of a dungeon with his senior. Shinoda Sr. tells Shinoda to not complain about it considering how Shinoda only got here because of his connections and informs Shinoda that it was quite difficult to manage here until about 3 weeks ago. While they are talking, a cute slime bumps into Shinoda's shoes, and he asks his senior if it is really alright for these slimes to be outside of the dungeon. Shinoda's senior gets worried, telling Shinoda that something is wrong. However, Shinoda's senior was not even able to finish his sentence when an orc who was standing behind him swings its axe at him. The scene then shifts to our boy, who notices that all of his skill points went up after defeating the giant king spider, and if he pushes a little more, Haruto would be able to reach level 50 in no time, because hunters that make it past the level 50 usually have a rather easier time getting into hunting parties than the hunters below level 50, and unlike the monsters in low-level dungeons, the monsters in the intermediate-level dungeons usually are above level 50. Because of which, in level dungeons, one can get more experience points and rewards, and oftentimes, rare items also pop up in this dungeon, which is why it is usually considered easier to level up once a hunter hits the level 50 mark. Before Haruto makes his way to the exhibition, he believes that he should make a copy of the giant king spider's parts into sticks. However, as he is wondering about that, there is suddenly a commotion in the Hunters Institute, where lots of hunters are rushing down the hall. Confused as to what is happening, Haruto soon learns that there is a dungeon break. Everything is so confusing that one of the hunters who was running down the hallway does not even know what they are supposed to do before the big guilds join them, upon which his colleague informs him that the trailer carrying the legendary sword that was set to go on display was caught up in this, and apparently it is an official cooperation request from the Internal Hunters Association. Our boy, who, just a moment ago, was not interested in joining the commotion, changes his mind after hearing that the very sword he wanted is in danger thanks to this dungeon break. The scene then shifts to the Hunters Association's rooftop, where further assistance is being requested from the other guilds in Japan, since they have to protect the trailer carrying the legendary longsword no matter what. As they are discussing how to handle things, Nanace joins them and takes charge as their team leader, telling everyone that she is tasked with instructing them about the mission. Nanace informs everyone that instead of focusing on the sword, the Hunters Association's top priorities are to defeat the monsters and rescue any civilians. After giving them the mission briefing, Nanace is about to enter the plane when she hears a commotion on the rooftop and tells everyone to get on the plane instead of causing a commotion. It turns out that the commotion is caused by none other than Haruto, who begs Nanace to take him on the plane with her because he knows that everyone is getting deployed there. Haruto tells Nanace that even though he is not strong enough to defeat the monsters, he can at least help with evacuating the civilians, and considering the current situation, the Hunters Association must use all the help they can get their hands on. Nanace is amazed at our boy, who, despite being a low-level hunter, is once again more than willing to sacrifice his life to save others. Nanace was not expecting that Haruto would be altruistic to this extent, but little does Sean that our boy came here purely for selfish reasons. Our boy manages to get a seat in the plane, where they are discussing the unexpected collapse of the Rainbow Bridge dungeon, even though it has not even been 3 weeks since the Hunters Association finished establishing everything. Nanace responds that there is nothing surprising about that, since anything can happen in this crooked world of theirs, and a building that has collapsed once and been rebuilt has no guarantees whatsoever that it will not collapse again. Nanace reminds them that this collapse is precisely the reason the hunters are being mobilized, since they do not want to repeat the great disaster that happened 15 years ago. 15 years ago, there was a dungeon break with a scale that can be easily compared to a natural disaster. The dungeon break usually happens when the dungeon's monsters are not cleared out regularly. This causes the dungeon to become saturated, which eventually leads to its collapse, and when that happens, the monsters that escape the dungeons begin attacking the civilians, which turns everything into a living hell. Haruto lost his parents to that disaster, and there is something he has not told anyone, since our boy himself has a difficult time believing it. But Haruto remembers how he saw a transcendental being from another dimension appear in front of him, only to curse our boy with copy and paste ability. That being called this curse a gift, and mentioned something about 20 years, and our boy still does not know whether that being was talking about skills expansion or Haruto's lifespan. However, even at this moment, the sands of the cursed hourglass continue to fall. Haruto believes that the reason the being appeared was because of the great disaster, and it might be possible that the day the being appears again, another great disaster will occur in this world. To deal with that, Haruto only has 5 years left, and in these 5 years, he has to become the strongest hunter to find a way to present that disaster, which might even lift Haruto's curse. While the hunters are flying towards the Rainbow Bridge dungeon, the monsters are wreaking havoc there. Things are so bad that Shinoda and his senior would not be able to protect everyone. While Shinoda is wondering about that, a goblin tries to bonk him from behind, but despite getting a job thanks to nepotism, Shinoda is strong enough to take down the goblin. However, that leaves him open for another goblin, who is just about to smash Shinoda from behind. But this time, Shinoda gets saved by his senior, who tells Shinoda to not look away and pay attention to the fight. Shinoda thanks his senior, who is still angry at Shinoda for letting his guard down. Even though Shinoda's senior is pretty rough with his words and often calls Shinoda a Nippo recruit, he still did his best to protect Shinoda from the orcs earlier and with those goblins earlier. It is the second time Shinoda's senior saved him. Shinoda asks if they received any word from their reinforcements, to which his senior responds that they were not able to get an answer thanks to the dungeon's electromagnetic waves that have jammed all communications, though Shinoda's senior believes that their reinforcements are on their way now since they might have noticed that something is strange. Shinoda's senior suggests that they should cross the bridge because that way, they can meet with their reinforcements sooner, but Shinoda asks him if it is a good idea to cross the bridge, to which his senior responds that it is better for them to cross the bridge than get killed by the monsters here. The scene then shifts to Arez and Moore, who are hiding behind the trailer that is being attacked by the Bearmon King, a bear-type monster of level 190. Moore asks Arez if the trailer would be able to handle the monster's attack, to which Arez responds that his defense magic is top tier to the point that even a level 400 monster would not be able to scratch it. But the moment she said that, a fierce monster appeared in front of them, in front of which even the highest level of defense magic would be useless. At that very moment, the reinforcement also manages to reach the Rainbow Bridge, only to get shocked by Keishia, the boss monster of the Rainbow Bridge's dungeon. Nanace notices that Keishia is about to attack, so she tells everyone to immediately prepare to brace for the impact. Keishia, right off the bat, fires its breath, which blows up the damn bridge. However, instead of worrying about the people on the bridge, our boy wonders if the longsword he so desperately wanted is safe or not. With the appearance of the final boss of the dungeon, Nanace changes the strategy and orders the association team to focus all of their attacks on Keishia. Nanace notices that Haruto is not with them. However, she decides to not worry about him, since Nanace believes that Haruto would not die from something of this caliber. Nanace then uses Hellfire on Keishia, which is noticed by our boy, who is once again amazed by this skill, to the point that Hanjun wants to copy it one day. But at the moment, Hanjun has something far more important to do, and that is to copy the longsword of the Collegia dragon. The scene then shifts to some masked individuals, few of whom are concerned about the appearance of Keishia, since it would put all of them in danger if they take even a single wrong step. Their leader, however, assures them that it is convenient because Hunter Nanace and the members of the association will definitely prioritize subjugating Keishia, because the fastest way to calm a dungeon break is to defeat its boss, thus giving them the opportunity to steal the longsword of the Collegia dragon. The leader of the masked individuals instructs them to stay hidden to avoid any kind of encounters with monsters, after which every one of them rushes to the trailer carrying the Collegia dragon's longsword. Our boy, on the other hand, is also heading towards the trailer, and on his way, he notices that there are a lot of corpses of wolf monsters on the road, and by the looks of it, it seems like these monsters were eliminated by another hunter. Haruto got a very bad feeling about it, because the biggest problem with these types of monsters is that they move in groups, which means that whoever eliminated these monsters must still be in trouble, and Haruto is right, because just a few meters away, Haruto notices that there is a hunter who is doing his best to eliminate as many monsters wolves as he can. That hunter is none other than Shinoda, who is doing this to save his senior, who got gravely injured thanks to the recent attack of Keishia. Shinoda's senior tells him to run for his life and leave him to die at the hands of these monsters. But there is no way Shinoda is going to let that happen. Shinoda's senior again tells Shidna that he should be running for his life. However, Shinoda is a stubborn junior who does not want to listen to his senior's particular request. Our boy, who is watching this scene unfold, notices that these hunters are from the dungeon access office, one of whom is gravely injured and needs medical attention. Haruto wants to help them, but he suddenly remembers his goal and concludes that they will manage to somehow save themselves. Shinoda Sr., on the other hand, is still arguing with Shinoda and is convincing him to run for his life, informing Shinoda that the reason these low-level dungeons are inside a high-level dungeon is because they get as strong as high-level monsters when they group up together, and the fact that several of them appeared means that there are way more wolf monsters that are about to swarm this area. But despite being faced with several wolf monsters of level 15 that usually attack in groups of 20 to 30 to make up for their low level, Shinoda does not want to run, because he knows that his senior got hurt because of him, which means it is now Shinoda's turn to cover for his senior. Haruto, who was listening to this conversation, suddenly remembers how he covered for his junior, and this was enough to make our boy reconsider his decision. Our boy rushes to save Shinoda, who is holding his own very nicely despite being attacked by one wolf monster after another, and saves Shinoda just before he was about to get eaten by the wolf. Haruto asks Shinoda if he is alright, to which Shinoda nods and warns Haruto about the swarm of wolf monsters that is about to jump at them. Shinoda appreciates Haruto's help, but he suggests our boy get out of here as soon as he can, because even a hunter of a higher level would not be able to hold his own against that horde. But little does Shinoda know that this is exactly what our boy wants. While the wolf monsters are preparing to jump at our boy, he, on the other hand, takes out the giant spider's stick from his inventory. Haruto wanted to put these up for auction first, but he would not be able to do so if he died here. So to make sure he gets out of here alive, Haruto combines the giant spider's stick with his skill option 2, which lets him stitch whatever object he wants for a certain period of time. The wolf monsters jump at our boy, which is enough to take the soul out of Shinoda's body. But to Shinoda's surprise, a large amount of giant spider's web starts capturing the wolf monsters immediately, and after a few moments, it weaves all of the wolf monsters into one large pillar. Because of this, our boy levels up twice, which is less than what he expected. Haruto believes it might be because he tied these wolf monsters together. However, thanks to that, our boy was able to find out that his recent attack is very effective against large groups, though, unfortunately, Haruto does not have a way to deal with those large groups after he ties them up. Shinoda, on the other hand, is amazed at Haruto's skill because he never saw such a skill and starts to wonder if it is a special skill of extremely high level. Shinoda Sr. thanks Haruto for saving them and asks if Haruto is part of the support sent by the association, to which Haruto nods, which is not a lie, considering Haruto did ride with them in the same plane. After learning that Haruto was sent by the association, he requests our boy to take Shinoda with him. However, Shinoda is still acting like a child and wants to stay with his senior even if it means he will die. Our boy immediately notices that it is a cliché situation where a junior wants to follow his senior's fate no matter what, and if Shinoda decides to stay with his senior, then it is going to be dangerous for the two of them, which puts Haruto in a small bind. Haruto opens his inventory and hands Shinoda Sr. a potion of an intermediate grade, which is quite an expensive item, but since our boy can always copy and paste it, it does not matter. Haruto tells Shinoda Sr. that this potion might not give him energy to fight, but it will certainly help him recover enough to be able to move. Shinoda Sr. does not understand why Haruto is giving him such an expensive item, but our boy tells him to not worry about that, and instead go home alive with his junior. Shinoda is amazed by how cool Haruto and thanks Haruto for his help. Shinoda also introduces himself to Haruto, requesting Haruto to remember his name at the very least, and promises to repay Haruto for his help someday. Haruto, who is about to go on his way, stops and asks Shinoda if he can repay that favor right now, because Haruto is looking for the International Hunters Association's trailer, and since he is directionally challenged, he is having trouble finding the trailer. Shinda gets shocked by this, not because Haruto is looking for the trailer, but because today Shinda found out that even hunters can get directionally challenged. The scene then shifts to Arez, who once again is putting Bearmon King to sleep. More comments on how, despite being a hunter, Arez deals with monsters in a non-violent way. While Arez is putting the Bearmon King to rest, they get attacked by the masked individuals, who are trying to take advantage of the commotion to get the Collegia dragon's longsword. However, Moore does not think they would pose much of a problem, because he has seen many people acting the same way around the exhibitions many times. One of the masked individuals attacks Moore, but there is no way Moore is going to let them walk over him. Moore easily fends off the attack and sends the masked individual flying on the ground, which gives Moore the opportunity to counterattack. Erez notices that something is wrong and tries to stop Moore, but it's too late, for Moore suddenly gets gravely injured without even receiving any attack. It turns out that those masked individuals are using a poisonous item that blocks mana absorption for a certain period of time, which means if Moore keeps fighting like that, he is definitely going to die. The leader of the masked individuals is impressed by Erez's intuition and tells Moore that they never underestimated the hunters of the International Hunters Association. Rather, this is actually how they do their job. Erez gets infuriated at them, for not only are they using a poisonous item that is strictly prohibited by the Internal Hunters Association, but they are also using it on other people without hesitation. To make sure they get the taste of their own medicine, she promises to make them suffer so much that they can't take it. The leader of the masked individuals scoffs at Erez, for a mere mage cannot do anything without their mana, and sends a fireball towards Erez. However, they forgot about the Bearmon King Erez was dealing with a moment ago. Erez undoes the skill she was using to make the Bearmon King sleep, which causes the Bearmon King to go on a rampage. The Bearmon King starts to eliminate the masked individuals one by one. The leader of the masked individuals realizes that the reason this Bearmon is on a rampage is because the hunters put the Bearmon King to sleep instead of killing it. As his subordinates get eliminated one by one, the leader makes a run for his life, leaving Erez and Moore helpless in front of the Bearmon King. Moore asks Erez if she can put Bearmon King to sleep again, to which Erez shakes her head, telling Moore that they will die if they try to absorb mana right now. Moore mentions that he always knew Erez would die because of his whole non-violent shtick, upon which Erez smiles, telling Moore that he is wrong about one thing and starts running towards the Bearmon King. Moore wants to stop Erez, but Erez is already trying to use her skills. However, because of that poisonous item, Erez receives a backlash, which leaves her open to Bearmon King's fierce slash. But right at that moment, Erez notices something. To her surprise, Erez sees the Bearmon King getting wrapped in a spider web that renders it immobile in a matter of a few seconds. This was done by none other than our boy, who is being accompanied by Shinda and his senpai, who goes by the name Tsukuba. Haruto himself did not know that he was capable of doing something like this, while Shinda, on the other hand, is once again surprised by Haruto, to the point where he begins to refer to him as his senior, which our boy finds strange given that he and Shinda are the same age. Shinda explains that because Haruto saved both Shinda and Tsukuba, that makes Haruto Shinda's senior. Haruto then shifts his attention to the two hunters, whom he believes to be the members of the International Hunters Association, and asks them if they are all right. Instead of thanking our boy for saving them, Moore stands up, asking our boy whether he is also aiming for the sword, to which our boy shakes his head, telling Moore that they have been sent here to protect the sword alongside them. However, considering how they were about to get robbed a moment ago, there is no way Moore is going to believe them. Haruto notices some bodies on the ground and deduces that they were also aiming for the Collegia dragon's longsword. However, they were defeated by the Bearmon King, but that does not mean Haruto is safe from Moore, who looks as if he is about to swing his weapon any second. However, before Moore is able to do such a thing, Shinda scolds Moore for trying to repay Haruto's kindness with evil, even though Haruto tried his best to help them. Shinda criticizes them for treating our boy like a robber and shows them his own identity card, telling Moore that he is a member of the Japan Hunters Association, while he and Sakabe are the hunters in charge of managing this dungeon. Our boy is glad at Shinda for pulling that move and decides to give it one last push by offering Moore and Erez some intermediate grade potions, not because they have serious injuries, but rather for the sake of copying the Collegia dragon's longsword, since this much investment is necessary for that sword. Moore and Erez grab the potion, while Erez gazes closely at the Bearmon King, who is growling under the giant spider's web. In the meantime, the supporting guilds also arrive at the location, which puts both Shinda at ease. However, Sakub does not feel the same, because sometimes hunters are bad in the head, just like the guys from the Great Sage Guild. The scene then shifts to Nanace and the rest of the hunters, who were able to deal enough damage to Keishia to push it into Phase 3, in which Keishia starts firing shockwaves over a large area. Nanace notices that the supporting Giddles have arrived, which means all they need to do now is to buy time until all the civilians get evacuated. However, it seems like they would not be able to do so thanks to Shirasaki Masato, a Dark Mage's hunter of level 503 who is also the guild master of Future Guild, because he is about to attack Keishia. Nanace tells Shirasaki to stop his spell, because if his magic attack does not take Keishia down, then it will be a disaster for everyone present on the Rainbow Bridge. But Shirasaki does not care about little things like that, because if he starts doing that, then Shirasaki would not be able to achieve anything. Shirasaki mentions that he was pretty furious about how Nanace and the association were part of the subjugation force. But things are different this time, because Shirasaki is also part of the subjugation this time, and he plans to defeat Keishia himself so that he can hog all the item drops. Shirasaki uses Dark Lightning on Keishia, which, instead of defeating it, causes Keishia to go on a rampage, which destroys the Rainbow Bridge in half. The scene then shifts to our boy, who was able to save both the trailer and the hunters from the recent shockwave once again thanks to the giant spiderweb. Haruto is not even able to collect himself properly when he notices Keishia's mouth right in front of him and wonders why it is here. While our boy is wondering about that, Shirasaki appears in front of him. Shirasaki is surprised to find out there are survivors in the area and praises Haruto for doing a good job despite being a low-level hunter. Haruto recognizes Shirasaki from the emblem hanging around Shirasaki's neck, which belongs to the Future Guild, which ranks third in the whole country. Haruto concludes that Shirasaki must be part of the supporting guilds, which confuses our boy, because the goals of the supporting guilds were to rescue the citizens and subjugate monsters that go after them. Shirasaki tells Haruto to look at the other side of the bridge because the surviving civilians had already evacuated. Shirasaki notices that he has been hearing some sort of unpleasant cry and wonders if it is coming from the Bearmon King tied by the giant spider's web. Shirasaki is rather amazed by the way the giant spider's web is used, as he did not know it could be used like this. Shirasaki then tears through the spider's web easily with his skill and instantly eliminates the Bearmon King. This surprises our boy because the giant spider's web was not only restraining a level 200 monster, but it was also suspending a 25-ton trailer, and Shirasaki simply went on and snapped a monster away, along with the giant spider thread. Haruto concludes that the reason Keishia is in its current situation could be the work of Shirasaki. As he is wondering about that, Haruto notices that he has leveled up multiple times again. However, our boy would not be receiving the reward for subjugating Bearmon King, thanks to Shirasaki's intervention. This sound of leveling up is also heard by Shirasaki, who is floating close to our boy. Shirasaki concludes that the Bearmon King must have been caught by Haruto, so he immediately apologizes for stealing Haruto's prey. Shirasaki is quite amazed by Haruto, because considering how the giant spider's web was used, he did not expect the user to be a low-level hunter. Shirasaki once again apologizes for delivering the final blow, and since stealing is not his hobby, Shirasaki hands over the Bearmon King's claw to Haruto. Haruto is infuriated by this intervention, but before he is able to say anything, Nanace joins them. Nanace is glad to see our boy alive, while Shirasaki, on the other hand, concludes that Haruto is also from the association, which is something he does not like. Nanace notices that our boy is not in a good mood, so she asks if something happened before she came here, to which our boy shakes his head, refusing to tell Nanace that his kill was stolen by Shirasaki. Assuming that everything is good, Nance instructs our boy to join the mover where the support teams are directing the evacuation of the citizens, because when Keishia wakes up, it will launch a variety of wide-range attacks. Haruto suggests killing Keishia while it is sleeping, upon which Nanace informs him that it is not possible because Keishia is built different. The boss monsters are classified according to their ability scores, and when their life force falls below 30%, they use their special moves. These special moves are of two types, the first one being Berserk while the second one is a wide area attack. Both of these special moves cause the boss monster to attack in all directions. Most of the low and mid-level bosses usually go berserk, and in these cases, one needs only to be careful of the boss, since there is no need to separate it into phases. However, bosses of the Kaishia class have very high HP, which allows them to use both berserk and wide area attacks. To deal with that, the subjugation of these bosses is typically split into phases. Phase 3 of these bosses starts when a boss senses a threat to its life. It is said that they will launch attacks so violent that they will destroy anything and everything around them. The very reason it is impossible to kill Kaishia is because it is in Phase 3 right now, in which it basically protects itself with a barrier while absorbing mana from the surrounding area, because of which attacks of any kind are ineffective during the entire duration. However, Kaishia wakes up earlier than Nanace expected, which shocks her. However, Shirasaki thinks it woke up at the right time because it gives him a chance to turn Kaishia into a reward item before it starts sending shockwaves on a large scale. Nanace tells Haruto to take care of himself, since she believes our boy is strong enough to survive against this. However, Shirasaki believes the opposite and tells Haruto to not resent us when he dies, because a low-level hunter dying in a dungeon is like someone dying from a traffic accident. Both Nanace and Shirasaki rush at Kaishia. While our boy grabs the Bearmon King's claw he got from Shirasaki and starts running in an opposite direction. Haruto vows to take revenge on the guild master of the future guild by subjugating Kaishia before him. Haruto meets with Shinda and the rest, which makes Shinda question if Haruto has come to help them again. Haruto does not respond to that, and tells Mor and Erez that he wants a favor from them since they are in a pretty bad situation at the moment. Our boy informs them that Kaishia has entered its Phase 3, which means pretty soon it is going to use a wide area attack, and when that happens, everyone present here will kick the bucket and it will take a long time to find the trailer and the longsword. To avoid that fate, Haruto needs to kill Kaishia, but to do that, he needs the Collegia Dragon's longsword. Haruto requests both of the Internation hunters to hand him over the longsword and promises to return it after he defeats the dungeon's final boss. However, Mor does not believe that Haruto is capable of pulling this feat off and tells our boy that just because he saved the two of them a moment ago, it does not mean they are going to listen to Haruto's stupid story. The Collegia Dragon's longsword is very valuable to the International Hunters Association, which is why Erez states that it is impossible for them to listen to Haruto's request. This puts our boy in a bit of a bind, because if this continues, the trailer will be put in danger. While our boy is thinking of a way to get the sword, Erez mentions that a very large amount of mana is required to unlock the trailer, and right now, both she and Mor are unable to use mana because of the poison item the robbers used a while ago. Mor gets shocked after hearing that, because this means that if Erez somehow restores her mana, which is nigh impossible, she is more than willing to hand over the longsword to Haruto. However, little does Mor know that what he thought to be impossible is actually possible since, in dungeons, our boy goes by the nickname of Mana Shuttle. Haruto informs Erez that he can restore her mana since his skill is infinite mana regeneration. Erez does not believe this at first, but once our boy uses his skill on her, Erez starts overflowing with the mana. After gaining a huge amount of mana, Erez uses her skill to unlock the seal on the trailer, which brings our boy one step closer to achieving his dream sword. Our boy leaps down on the trailer below him, while Mor, on the other hand, asks Erez about the reason she did that, because even though Erez feels bad for him, it does not give her the authority to do as she pleases, because no one knows what will happen if that sword goes into the wrong hands. Erez assures Mor that everything will be fine, telling Mor that the reason she entrusted Haruto with the sword is because a while ago, even though Haruto completely tied up the Bearmon King, he did not even try to kill him, which was enough to move Erez's heart. Mor lets out a sigh and tells Erez that she is way too pure for this world. Our boy opens the door of the trailer in hopes of getting his hands on the Collegia Dragon's longsword he so desperately wanted, but alas, at that very moment he gets ambushed by the leader of the masked individuals, who ran away after the operation failed. After he lost his subordinates, the leader did not know what to do for a while after. However, he kept following the hunters, which fortunately led him to his destination. The leader of the masked individual strikes at our boy in the back with his dagger and falls onto the box that contains the longsword. The leader, in his wildest imaginations, did not know he would be getting the Collegia Dragon's longsword this way. However, the moment he opens the box, the trailer starts falling down. Since Haruto ended up dying, the giant king spider's web was released, which dropped the trailer down into the sea, drowning the leader of the masked individuals along with his plans. At that moment, Haruto uses his skill to instantly close the distance and appear beside the thief. Caught off guard, the thief has no time to react. Haruto strikes him down with his sword in a single blow. As the thief collapses, Haruto calmly remarks that he had saved up money to buy that longsword. Haruto stands over a defeated rival guild soldier, holding a legendary longsword he had always wanted. After confirming the enemy is dead, he tries to copy the weapon using a system command. However, it fails, stating that his level is insufficient. Confused and frustrated, Haruto argues that the requirement makes no sense since he is already above the needed level. Before he can react, a voice mocks him for almost disgracing the Red Tower Guild. To his shock, the soldier suddenly regenerates and gets back up, revealing he survived thanks to high-level healing. He takes the sword back and declares that he also repays grudges many times over. Without hesitation, he strikes Haruto from behind with the same sword. As Haruto's health drops critically low, multiple system messages appear. The Collegia Dragon longsword begins to fuse with him, copying and absorbing all of its abilities. With his HP falling below 25%, the sword's protection effect activates, forcibly triggering its second unique skill, Berserk. A massive spectral dragon suddenly appears and prepares a wide-area attack. At that moment, a man with red glasses and a powerful girl step forward to fight it. After a fierce battle, they manage to defeat the dragon, leaving heavy destruction behind. A system message confirms the boss, Hushia, has been defeated and the dungeon is cleared. The scene then shifts to a meeting at the Japan Hunters Association. A report explains that the Rainbow Bridge dungeon, which had been cleared months ago, collapsed again, causing major damage and casualties. Fuwa Takuo, a level 570 priest, tries to ease the situation, but Teichigo, a level 701 sword master, questions how this could happen. Shinoda Makoto, a level 610 healer, explains that clearing a dungeon does not guarantee it will remain stable. The discussion quickly turns into an argument, with members blaming poor management and suggesting changes in responsibility. Nearby, the girl who helped defeat the dragon quietly wonders if a hunter named Sano survived. Suddenly, another man slams the table and questions the boss's unusually fast return. He directly accuses Hunter Nanace of failing to properly handle the situation. Nanace remains calm and places her hand on the table, instantly shattering it into pieces. Panic spreads across the room. As others shout and warn her about showing such power, Nanace calmly begins to explain her side. Nanace proves her point by demonstrating her skill, Shockwave, which she gained after defeating the boss. She states that Shirasaki, who helped in the fight, can confirm it. All eyes turn to him, and although he is clearly unhappy, he reluctantly agrees. The others misunderstand his response and begin praising him, believing he helped reduce the damage. While Shirasaki forces a smile, he secretly resents Nanace and the unknown hunter who took the boss's reward. Nanace then announces she will personally investigate the dungeon break. She shifts her attention to a team that submitted a late report, making them visibly nervous, before ending the meeting and leaving. Moments later, a man from the International Hunters Association enters with his assistant. He reveals that the Collegia Dragon longsword was stolen during transport and formally requests cooperation. When someone questions the claim, the assistant explains that the transport was accessed by Hunter Shinoda Satoru of the Great Sage Guild and Hunter Sano Haruto of the Japan Hunters Association. This shocks everyone. The Great Sage Guild master is stunned, while the association chairman denies having any member named Sano Haruto. Outside, Nanace overhears this and grows tense, while inside, Shirasaki quietly sees an opportunity for revenge. Elsewhere, in a hidden base, Hirosaki Takumi, a level 301 dealer and leader of the Red Tower Guild, holds the stolen longsword. He admires its power, noting that it greatly boosts the user's level, and declares it was worth the cost of causing the dungeon incident. A soldier reports to him, apologizing for a delay caused by an unexpected opponent, but confirms the mission is complete. Hirosaki rewards him with money and dismisses him. However, as the soldier prepares to leave, Hirosaki suddenly declares the mission a failure. He explains that such a rare weapon cannot be trusted in others' hands and accuses the soldier of potentially leaking information. Realizing the danger, the soldier panics, understanding too late that he was never meant to survive. Hirosaki confirms this and strikes at the soldier with his sword. A system message then appears, stating that the Collegia Dragon longsword's durability has decreased, leaving only a small amount remaining. Hirosaki looks at the slightly damaged weapon, realizing it will become a serious problem if it breaks before he finds a way to repair it. Haruto suddenly wakes up, feeling a familiar pain in his body. The hourglass tattoo on his neck begins moving again, signaling that something has changed. His partner rushes to him in relief, explaining that Haruto had been unconscious for a long time after a massive flash near the ocean. Haruto brushes it off, but his partner continues, describing how their third teammate caused chaos and even forced the Great Sage Guild's search team to carry out a rescue mission. The story reveals that Shinoda Makoto was involved in helping them. Hearing that name shocks Haruto, as he immediately connects it to Shinoda Satoru and the Great Sage Guild. The coincidence feels too strange, leaving him deep in thought. At the Hunters Association, Nanase calmly receives the report of Haruto's supposed death, showing little reaction as she states that death is always a risk for hunters. The meeting continues with representatives from the International Hunters Association, Ares and more, who request full cooperation in recovering the stolen longsword. Moore reveals he can track the weapon through a unique pattern engraved on it, and sensed it being used recently. Nanase realizes this explains why they allowed Haruto to use the sword earlier. Moore warns that the weapon's durability is already low, and if it breaks, it could disappear completely. Ares reacts strongly, but Nanase reveals she already knows the truth. The sword is not just a powerful item, but a keepsake from Ares' missing mother. Moore, clearly emotional, bows and asks for her help in retrieving it. Later, Nanase reflects on the situation, sensing that Ares and Moore are hiding something. She also doubts the report of Haruto's death, believing he wouldn't fall so easily. Her thoughts are interrupted by her father, a senior member of the Great Sage Guild, who asks her to return. She refuses, criticizing the guild's actions. Before leaving, he tells her to visit the Hunter Central Hospital, which surprises her. That night, Haruto sits alone on the hospital rooftop and checks his status. His level has increased significantly due to the sword's effects. He realizes that instead of copying the weapon itself, he absorbed all of its abilities. Reviewing his skills, he confirms that Berserk saved his life. He also discovers that he was the one who defeated the boss, Fuchsia. His abilities have evolved, transforming Shockwave into new powers called Resonant Frequency and Nature Wave. Now, Haruto has become a high-level hunter. Haruto steps into an elevator, smiling to himself about his next move, but his expression unsettles the others, causing them to quickly leave. Now his only goal is to find the man who struck him. As he walks through the hallway, he hears Hunter Nanase arguing with a young man who calls her Nachon and blames her for the dungeon incident. Hearing this, Haruto quickly pieces things together. The Shinoda family is deeply connected, and Nanase was the one who pushed both the Association and the Great Sage Guild to search for him. Then he hears something that shocks him even more. The boy asks if Haruto is safe and where he is. Realizing Nanase is actively looking for him, Haruto panics. He decides he must recover the longsword before she finds him and tries to slip away quietly. But before he can escape, someone grabs him and slams him against the wall. It's Shirasaki. Furious, he accuses Haruto of deceiving him and immediately draws his sword, ready to attack. Haruto tries to explain, but Shirasaki refuses to listen. With no other option, Haruto activates his new ability. As he touches the blade, a powerful vibration runs through it, and the sword suddenly shatters into pieces. The hallway falls silent. Shirasaki stands frozen in shock, while the Shinoda siblings stare in disbelief. The young man hesitates, recognizing Haruto, while Nanace watches closely. She realizes the ability he used resembles the boss's power, and his presence now feels far stronger than before. Meanwhile, across the city, an idol group finishes a performance. One of the members, Erida Sarah, leaves alone in her car, while her bandmates talk behind her back. As she drives through the city, a black van suddenly cuts her off, forcing her to stop. Annoyed, she confronts the driver, but her attitude quickly changes when a familiar man steps out, the one who stole the longsword. Calm and threatening, he places a long black case on her car and asks about her recent work. Sarah stays silent, clearly tense. The scene shifts outside, where Moore leads the group to the location where the longsword was last used. Ares observes the area and concludes they are too late. Nanace wonders if they now have to wait for the longsword to be used again, then recalls something important. The culprit who attacked Haruto mentioned being from the Red Tower Guild. Nanace admits she has never heard of such a guild, suggesting it is likely a secretive dark guild. Haruto is surprised by this, but Moore warns that waiting may not be an option, as the longsword might not last much longer. Nanace then mentions she knows someone highly informed about such matters. The story shifts to a flashback 15 years earlier during the Great Disaster. Sarah gains a mysterious ability, not by awakening as a hunter, but by receiving a unique skill, Control Z, which can restore a target, object, or person to its previous state. She begins restoring broken, expensive items and selling them, earning money. Though not a healing skill, she also uses it to treat injuries. However, her earnings are not enough. Her parents were severely injured during the disaster and remain in critical condition. Sarah tries to restore them, but the skill requires mana, something only hunters can handle. With little mana, she can only fix minor injuries. Desperate, she risks her life by entering dungeons as a porter and occasional healer. For a non-hunter, this is extremely dangerous. Worse, she endures constant contempt from others. During this time, she meets Takumi. The scene shifts to Takumi's room. He questions how Sarah spends her money, but she stays silent. Kurosaki recalls their first meeting, noting that even after witnessing death, Sarah showed no fear, only calculation, as if she was considering stealing their equipment. Takumi realizes she is just like him. Frustrated, Sarah asks why she must enter a dungeon again if Kurosaki can simply provide mana as before. Kurosaki explains he wants her to restore a sword, but it requires a massive amount of mana, too much to handle here. This will be her last dungeon trip. Sarah is shocked and guesses he has found an infinite mana source inside the dungeon. Kurosaki denies it, but says there is a chance it may appear if she goes with him. Despite their contract limiting her dungeon exposure, he asks her to join him one final time, promising a fitting reward. The scene returns to the present at the Future Guild. Haruto asks if the well-informed person Nanace mentioned is Master Shirasaki, known for causing trouble and stealing information. Nanace confirms this. Haruto, however, questions the choice, noting that for reliable intelligence, the top domestic guilds like the Midas Guild or the Great Sage Guild would usually be the first option. Nanace explains that, at the very least, the Future Guild has the best information in the world when it comes to dungeon clearing and management, a fact even recognized by the association. The scene shifts to Shirasaki's office. After hearing about the giant golem's remains, also known as an infinite mana generating item, he listens closely as Nanace explains. This item rarely appears in the golem's Snowy Mountain dungeon and is believed to be a reward tied to the giant golem boss. To locate the hidden dungeon, investigation teams were mobilized, and that is when the Red Tower Guild became involved. Nanace admits she had never heard of this guild before. It appears to be a secretive dark guild that has been quietly recruiting members to conquer the dungeon. That is all the information they currently have. Hearing this, Shirasaki remarks that the group is even worse than expected. They steal from anyone, whether VIPs or dungeon parties, and operate without restraint. Meanwhile, Haruto thinks about the infinite mana item. He doesn't necessarily need it, but its value is undeniable. Anyone would want such power. This raises a question. What does this have to do with the longsword? Did they steal it to defeat the giant golem? If so, The sword's low durability suggests something else is more valuable than it. Nanace suggests this might mean the Red Tower Guild has already found the giant golem's remains, which is why they are moving to conquer the dungeon. However, Ares disagrees. She explains that since the hidden dungeon was discovered 15 years ago, the item has never been found. Having researched the dungeon for a long time, she notes that Golem's Snowy Mountain is infamous for its difficulty. Most hunters avoid it entirely. While some parties once searched for the hidden dungeon, nearly all have given up. Shirasaki questions what could be inside that dungeon to make an assassination-focused group go this far to form a team. Even if it is not the hidden dungeon, something valuable must be there. Haruto then asks when the Red Tower Guild plans to move. Shirasaki replies that he doesn't know. Since recruitment is already over, they may have already departed. This confirms Haruto's suspicion. Everything was planned long before the longsword was stolen. Nanace decides they must head there immediately. She asks Shirasaki for an attack team that can deploy right away. At first, he hesitates, claiming he has no such team. But Nanace points out that the future guild always keeps a standby force comparable to the association's. Shirasaki pushes back, warning that information about hidden dungeons is often unreliable and not worth the risk, especially in such a harsh environment. The scene shifts back to the Golem's Snowy Mountain, where golems charge across the frozen terrain. Despite his reluctance, Shirasaki ultimately joins the operation. Haruto and the others are there as well. The mission has begun. A few moments later, the team is battling the golems. However, the creatures keep regenerating and counterattacking, slowing their progress. Frustrated, Shirasaki realizes this will take longer than expected and orders his team to destroy the golem's cores to stop their regeneration. He then unleashes a powerful spell, shattering multiple cores at once and dropping the golems instantly. With momentum regained, he commands everyone to push forward and eliminate as many golems as possible, restoring the team's morale. Haruto notes that Shirasaki initially didn't want to come, yet now he is leading from the front. The scene shifts to earlier. Ares tells Haruto that once inside the dungeon, he must defeat as many golems as possible. When Haruto asks why, Ares explains that this is the condition required for the mid-boss to appear. According to her research, this dungeon is an inductive type, which confuses Haruto. Shirasaki clarifies that hidden dungeons often work this way. In normal dungeons, areas are divided into zones, allowing hunters to head straight to the boss if they know the route. But in an inductive dungeon, specific conditions must be met for the next area, or boss, to appear. If even one condition is missed, progress stops entirely. Ares adds that an error 15 years ago likely disrupted the dungeon system, which is why the hidden dungeon has not appeared since. Understanding this, Haruto confirms that defeating a large number of golems is the trigger for the mid-boss. Ares agrees and stresses they must act quickly and thoroughly. If the mid-boss drops a key item needed for the next stage, then that is likely what the Red Tower Guild is after. They must secure it first. Back in the present, Haruto faces the golems, focused on finding the Collegia Dragon's longsword and completing his goal. He activates one of his new skills and defeats a golem in a single strike. The other hunters are shocked, recognizing the ability as giant spider's thread, a skill from a low-level dungeon, yet far more powerful than expected. Meanwhile, Ares shouts for everyone to keep attacking, while more charges forward, crushing the golems ahead. Suddenly, a massive golem appears from behind and launches a heavy attack. The team tries to retreat, but they are too late. The strike lands. At that moment, Nanae steps forward and unleashes a powerful shockwave, instantly defeating the giant golem and stopping its advance. The remaining hunters are relieved and thank her. Then, Nanae notices someone in the group and immediately confronts him. She grabs the young man, Kong Songyemo, and demands to know why he is there. Nervous, he explains he joined through his brother's party. Seeing this, Haruto recalls a past moment where the same boy desperately begged to join a dungeon team, leaving a strong impression on him. In the past, Songyemo insisted on joining Haruto, worried he would get lost again. Haruto eventually agreed, but only if Songyemo joined his party instead of the main raid group, which made him excited. Back in the present, Nanace is furious, questioning why Haruto would bring someone so inexperienced into such a dangerous dungeon. Song Imo quickly defends him, insisting that Haruto is far stronger than he looks. He reveals that it was Haruto, not anyone else, who defeated the boss. Hearing this, Nanace is shocked. She realizes the ability Haruto used matches the boss's power, confirming that Song Imo is telling the truth. Haruto is much stronger than she initially thought. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the dungeon, Arata Sarah is with the longsword thief from the... He explains their strategy. They blend in with the main raid and secretly take down enemies at the right moment to collect mana and items without being noticed. He points out that most high-level hunters neglect detection skills, making this tactic effective. He checks a device used to gather mana and notes that it's working, but slowly. Sarah, already familiar with it, asks how much is needed for their real goal. He explains they will need even more than usual. From this, Sarah understands that they must defeat the hidden boss to achieve it. The man confirms this and adds that a powerful barrier protects the hidden area, and only the Collegia Dragon longsword can break through it. When Sarah questions how he knows this, he avoids answering and tells her to focus on collecting items. Though she finds the method questionable, she goes along with it, determined to achieve her personal goal. Back with Haruto, the battle continues as waves of golems keep appearing. Even after defeating a large number, they don't stop. Suddenly, a different golem with a glowing core appears in front of him. Sensing something unusual, Haruto tries to copy its power, but before he can, the core disappears into the ground. The entire area begins to shake. The white-haired hunter realizes what's happening and announces it. The next stage has begun. A massive golem, far larger than the others, rises from the ground. The mid-boss has finally appeared. Haruto and Hunter Kinosaki shout for the team to fall back as chaos erupts. Kinosaki spots the glowing core and warns Haruto. He quickly devises a plan to trap the core using the spider's thread, but the golem absorbs nearby rubble and grows larger. Haruto realizes the real danger. The golem is preparing to merge with all the scattered remains, which would make it unstoppable. He urgently instructs a specific hunter to fall back and use Hellfire. Nanace agrees, explaining that less powerful attacks are futile. They must take down the golem quickly. Kinosaki snaps at her, stating that they may need to take care of every piece of rubble to prevent the golem from reforming. Haruto hesitates. Then Haruto remembers a past reward, the Bearmon King's Claw, which has two skills, one to immobilize a target and another to burrow inside to inflict damage. A plan forms in his mind. As the golem prepares to strike Nanace, her mana begins to run out. At that critical moment, Haruto uses spider thread to bind the golem and stop its movement. Everyone is shocked. Even Shirasaki can't believe that a skill like Great Spider's Thread can restrain something so powerful. Haruto quickly tells Shirasaki to attack, but he hesitates. Haruto insists he can keep the golem immobilized and warns that they don't have much time. Reluctantly, Shirasaki follows his lead and unleashes a full power strike. The attack exposes the golem's core once again. Before it can regenerate, Haruto uses another skill to suppress the recovery, successfully stopping it. Seeing his plan work, Haruto feels relieved. Shirasaki, however, is stunned that such results came from what he considered a low-level reward skill. Nanace is equally surprised. While Haruto has grown stronger, this level of performance exceeds expectations. She recalls how, even during past battles, Haruto always stepped in at crucial moments. Ares comments that this is typical of Haruto's fighting style. The team regains confidence as they realize the golem's regeneration has been completely halted. Elsewhere, Kurosaki observes the outcome and is surprised that the boss golem has been defeated. He immediately orders Sarah to stop gathering mana, stating they need to speed up their plan. He commands his team to take their positions. Confused, Sarah asks if the situation is serious enough for Gil J to act personally. Kurosaki replies that, because of that unexpected factor, securing the core's key will now be more troublesome. Before leaving, he tells Sarah to get ready as well.